Hey everybody, I'm Will Garcia,
And I'm Josh Earl.
and we're the Hoops Guys. And today, to start off our team previews, we are talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They didn't do so hot last year.
No, they did not. Finishing 33 and 49.
Yeah.
And somehow still winding up with yet another number one overall pick.
Yeah, those 1.9% chances just keep adding up.
I swear they've either got some blackmail on the actual ping pong machine, or they've got like a wizard on staff or something. In which case, Washington probably has some beef with them.
Yeah, Washington will have some beef and then for stealing Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what did they do well last year? What did they do poorly last year? How did this thing break out?
All right, so one thing that's kind of being overblown a little bit in the media about the Cavs lately is the lack of a rim protector.
Right.
And while they don't really have a high-level shot blocker or rim deterrent on the roster at the moment, they did pretty well at kind of preventing interior shots.
Yes.
They were third in restricted area in terms of the percentage of opponent shots within that area. They were fifth at in the paint in that same area. They didn't give up a lot of free throws. I think they were like fifth in the field goal percentage of shots within 3 feet of the basket. So, you know, those great finishing shots. They did pretty well at defending those, and also defended dunks and layups pretty well as well.
Yeah.
So the rim protection
not
might be
giving them
slightly overstated. They clearly are able to protect the basket with the players that are currently on the roster.
Right. What I was seeing, and we'll double check it, and we'll put an annotation of the actual numbers. But what I was seeing, and when I was on just browsing Basketball Reference, was that while they were middling in terms of the field goal percentage on those close shots, they really didn't give up very many of them at all.
No.
And that's pretty encouraging.
Yep. And then
Another thing. Oh, go ahead.
And then offensively, one thing that they had going well for them is they really didn't turn the ball over much. I think they were 9th in turnover rate.
Yep. Yeah, no, they did that very well. Although you do have to put a little asterisk next to it. You were in a Mike Brown offense that didn't have much ball movement.
True.
So the one thing we do know about when you increase ball movement, it does increase the likelihood of turnovers. So you do have to put a little asterisk next to it, but they did do a good job at not turning the ball over.
Yes. And then, of course, they crashed the boards really well. They were
very well.
9th in offensive rebound rate and 6th in defensive rebound rate.
Yep. And a couple of brief little individual things right quick. Dion Waiters really got better as a perimeter shooter. He went from 31% on threes to 37%. He improved his mid-range game. He really his stroke was pretty wet last year.
Yeah. And of course, one of my favorite guys, Matthew Dellavedova, had a really good rookie year. Kind of along the lines of Jose Calderon-esque type guy in the sense that he took care of the ball, he ran the offense well, and could really shoot it when he had opportunities.
Yeah, David Blatt's going to love him.
Yeah.
If he doesn't already. He probably already does.
And then, of course, speaking of the offensive rebounding that the Cavs as a team were really good at, both Tristan Thompson and Andy Varejao were top 20 in offensive rebounds per game.
Yeah, they really crashed the offensive boards hard. Tristan Thompson actually was 9th.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, top 10. So, in terms of being able to just create more opportunities, that really helped them out.
Yeah. Well, so that was the good stuff.
There was a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, what went bad last year, Will?
In short, the offense went bad. So they were 20th in offensive rating, basically no matter how you look at it. So 20th in offensive rating, 29th in a really cool stat by Ian Levy that I'm going to leave a link to called XPPS, which shows the expected points per shot. It means what it sounds like.
Yeah.
26th in actual points per shot, 26th in effective field goal percentage, because those are basically the same stat. One of the big reasons for this was that Mike Brown offense was ugly.
Yeah.
It was broken. It didn't work.
Lots of ISO heavy stuff and not a lot of ball or player movement.
Right. So that didn't work out too well. Kyrie Irving had a bit of a down year from the year prior in terms of his shots falling as well. Dion Waiters made more than a few questionable decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another big problem for them was finishing at the basket, which this team was dead last at field goals from 0 to 3 feet, which is not good. Those are layups.
Yeah, layups, dunks.
One player who really dropped the ball in terms of making layups, and you wouldn't think it. The guy's like 6'4", 220 pounds, built like a house of bricks.
Yeah.
Dion Waiters really couldn't get much of anything going in there in terms of being able to hit layups. I mean, Dion, you're 6'4", 220. Make some layups. It's not hard.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, he actually, this is pretty crazy. What I found out was that he did worse last year at making layups than Brandon Jennings. He weighs like 8 times as much as Brandon Jennings. Brandon Jennings is like a twig.
Yeah.
So, come on, dude. Make layups.
But there is a bright side to all of this. They might have had a really bad year, and they were able to luck into the number 1 pick, and that number 1 pick, in turn, was able to help kickstart quite an off-season for the Cavs.
Yeah, they had the best off-season this year.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a team that added James Jones, Joe Harris, Brendan Hayward, Alex Kirk, Mike Miller, Sean Marion, and 2 guys named Kevin Love and LeBron James.
Those guys aren't very good. Come on, Joe Harris.
I'm a Joe Harris.
Joe Harris. MVP candidate, Joe Harris.
Well, obviously, LeBron coming home is a huge story and is going to have a monumental impact on this franchise again. And obviously, the fans weren't too happy when he left, but I think that's been smoothed over a bit, and everybody in Cleveland is excited about this team going forward.
Yeah, that ball kind of got dropped by everybody. But when LeBron left for Miami, really everyone kind of dropped the ball there. But it's good to see him picking it all back up.
Yeah.
So just talking about LeBron, because really, why not talk about LeBron? He's the best player in the NBA. He's going to impact any NBA team, but I really like the way he fits in here, don't you, Josh?
Agreed. I think he's going to have a really strong impact on his teammates. I think Kyrie is going to be more efficient. Dion might see the biggest jump in efficiency because he's going to be moving from that secondary shot creator role to more of a catch and shoot and attack closeout defenders type guy.
Not to cut you off on that, but pretty interesting thing. He shot over 41% on catch and shoot threes.
Yeah. And he's going to
really
get a lot more of them this year.
Yes.
Yep. The other nice things, LeBron obviously brings an elite skill set when it comes to finishing at the rim, which obviously the Cavs struggled with last year. On top of that, he's very much a shot creator himself. And
for himself and for his teammates.
Exactly. So that's going to ease the burden on Kyrie, which also should mean a little more off-ball time for Kyrie. And
yeah, that's good for Kyrie.
Generally speaking, his off-ball kind of spot-up catch-and-shoot type stuff wasn't working as well as you would expect, given how well he shoots off the dribble last year. but I feel like he's going to get better looks this year, and I have the feeling he'll shoot a nice percentage. And then defensively, LeBron's one of those guys that he's going to be anchoring the defense in terms of calling out coverages, making sure guys are in the right places, taking on very important players on the opposition, and trying to force them into a tough night. So from an overall impact standpoint, LeBron's going to have such a massive impact on this franchise. It's insane.
Yeah, LeBron's going to be LeBron.
Yes, pretty much.
You know, LeBron is going to do what LeBron's going to do. He could do it on pretty much any NBA team. But I think that David Blatt is going to do a tremendous job utilizing his basically unlimited skill set.
Yes.
And that's going to be pretty great. Speaking of pretty great, Kevin Love's pretty great.
Yes, one of my favorite active players.
Same here.
Obviously, he came to the Cavs through the trade with Minnesota, wherein the Cavs sent out the past 2 number 1 overall picks in Anthony Bennett and Andrew Wiggins. Love is going to be a perfect fit next to Kyrie and LeBron.
Yeah, you saw the Maccabi game, didn't you? The preseason game? Those outlet passes were on point.
Oh, yeah. He's easily the best outlet passer in the league right now.
With that fast break, with David Blatt's just... Because David Blatt, he has that team running the floor. So those 80-foot outlet passes are going to be a beauty to watch.
Yep.
And, you know, Kevin Love isn't going to really help their supposed rim protection problems. But... He can be a serviceable defender. He's going to really help their defensive rebounding that's already really good.
They're going to end defensive possessions very well.
Yeah, and then 7 words is basically all I have to say to defend Kevin Love acquisition. LeBron James, Kevin Love, pick and pop.
Yes. I would not be surprised to see, especially in an offense run by David Blatt, who generally runs a lot of Princeton-style elements in his offenses, as well as a lot of on- and off-ball movement. Having a player like Kevin Love who can take you in the post, who can set good picks, and who is a space threat, a legitimate space threat. There's a lot of quote-unquote stretch 4s in the league, but there aren't many that have a high release point and a quick release point that are also accurate. And Kevin Love's able to do that at a high volume. So those pick and rolls with Kevin Love and Kyrie or LeBron are going to be really tough for the defense to cover, especially if there's some weak side action that Blatt's got going on. That could free up a shooter. The defense is basically just going to have to pick their poison in those situations.
Yeah, and either poison, given the choice between LeBron inside or Kevin Love outside, either one, you lost.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that worked out. Those 2 were in terms of player personnel, those were the 2 biggest acquisitions. But personally, I think that one of the biggest upgrades, if not the biggest upgrade, was going from Mike Brown to David Blatt here. Yes,
I wouldn't want to discredit Brown too much, but Blatt, it's amazing to me that Blatt hasn't gotten a head coaching opportunity.
Yeah.
In the NBA yet. There seems to be some sort of bias against people who don't have previous NBA coaching experience.
Right.
But, I mean, this guy's been winning his entire coaching career, and he's been doing it in tough environments. And,
yes.
He's been doing it consistently, and I have a lot of respect for David Blatt, and I think he's going to do wonders with this team.
Yeah, you can already see, in the limited, experience we have watching this Cavs team, you can see the wheels turning here.
Yep.
And especially on offense, which, to be fair, the defense is mostly a personnel thing at this point.
Yeah.
But in terms of coaching on offense, this is a gorgeous team to watch. in terms of the ball movement, the player movement. Really just an offense that gets open, good shots. David Blatt is a wonder. He's gonna do great things with this team day one.
Oh yeah. And then beyond those three major acquisitions that we just mentioned, they added a lot of other guys who can be really beneficial. Like we mentioned earlier, I mean, Sean Marion, he's getting up there in age, so he's not really doing some of the Matrix-y type things that he had his nickname for.
Right.
But he's still a really determined, smart, impactful team defender.
Yes.
And and he's very versatile too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Blatt run some minutes of a lineup where Love is at the 5, LeBron's at the 4, and Marion's at the 3, and all three of those guys can just switch assignments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he is a really underrated corner spot up threat. I don't want to say underrated because everyone talks about his corner threes. I shouldn't have said underrated. But
a good corner
he's
spot.
a very good spot up threat from the corner, and Blatt's going to be bad.
Oh, yeah. And then, James Jones might not get a whole lot of minutes, but James Jones and Mike Miller are great infusions of knockdown three-point shooters. And in an offense like Blatt's likely to run, those guys are going to be immensely valuable and really going to help open things up for Love, LeBron, and Kyrie.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. They have Kyrie, Dion, Mike Miller, James Jones, Dellavedova, Kevin Love, who on this team can't shoot. That's not even fair how many shooters are going to be able to run in these sorts of in an offense that works so well at creating open shots.
Yeah, I mean, especially if the rumors that are percolating right now are true, and that they will bring in Ray Allen.
Yes.
If that is the case, which indications seem to be it will, you're talking about adding some top-notch...
You're adding the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah. So...
he might be a little older. He's still the greatest shooter.
He's in better shape, I think, than a lot of players. So I wouldn't worry about Allen in terms of age. I think it's more a... I think he's taken his sweet time this offseason just to make sure that he wants to go through the grind of the preparation for a season.
Right.
Because he's one of those guys who's almost like borderline OCD on the routines that he has pre-games, pre-season, and so forth. So I think that and the mental toll is kind of what has delayed any decision. But if the Cavs do indeed sign him, you're talking about a team that in their first year together might be, in conversation for one of the best offensive teams we've seen in a long time. Absolutely.
Now, to be fair, they also lost a few guys.
Yes.
So, Spencer Hawes went to LA.
Yep.
Luol Deng's gone. Luol Deng struggled for them. He wasn't himself.
Yeah.
Karasev. I liked Karasev. I didn't think he got much of a
I like
fair
Karasev.
run.
I don't think he got the opportunity that maybe would have wanted.
So they lost Zeller to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Zeller really improved.
Yeah.
In terms of from rookie year to sophomore year, he got just way better. But they lost a few guys. They got LeBron and Kevin Love.
Yeah. It's hard to feel too bad about losing players when you wind up with LeBron and Kevin Love in the same offseason.
Yeah, that's kind of like complaining about spending $5 on a $20,000 winning lotto ticket.
Pretty much.
So, in terms of this team really got, a lot. And really, if you look at even like a guy like Anthony Bennett,
yep,
they're kind of, and I don't mean this in a way to discredit Bennett as a player, but with the construction of their lineup and who they have now, there's too many mouths to feed. They're kind of better with him gone.
Yeah, well, obviously he had to be gone in order to get Kevin Love,
right?
But Bennett's actually one of those guys that I think he's going to wind up being a good player in this league. I think the rookie year was just kind of an unfortunate coalescing of bad circumstances.
Fluke expectations, like the whole fluke expectations, injury.
Yep.
Not really awesome role all the time.
That said, even if you think that he might become a multiple all-star down the line,
same with Wiggins.
Kevin Love is a multiple all-star type guy right
you take
now.
Kevin Love.
And he's only, I think, 25?
Yeah, no, you take Kevin Love a billion times out of a billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a... I think that the Timberwolves got a good, decent return, considering everything, but yeah, that was a no-brainer for the Cavs. And if it wasn't a no-brainer, I'm concerned about their brains.
One thing that's interesting, though, given the massive turnover in this roster, and something that you yourself kind of came up with, what you're terming possession delta.
Yeah, it sounds way nerdier than it actually is.
Why don't you explain to them a little bit about possession delta and how the Cavs plan on kind of making this work, considering they essentially added 35 some odd possessions through all these transactions.
So, basically, just to do a quick rundown of what a possession is. So I'm using the definition of possession from what we call true shooting percentage. And what that basically says for a possession is that a field goal attempt counts as a possession, a turnover counts as a possession, and a free throw counts as 0.44 possessions, because you have to account for 3-point fouls and ones and all that kind of stuff. So what the Cavs last year consumed 109 possessions as a team. So that's about average, 109-ish. They got rid of about 27 possessions worth of players, essentially. They brought in 63.
Yeah.
So they brought in 2/3 of a team, essentially, in terms of guys they brought in. So they have what I call a possession delta of, or it'd be like a surplus of over 35 possessions, which is more than a guy like LeBron James or Paul George would even consume. So, like, basically what it winds up meaning is that a lot of guys are going to have to take smaller roles here.
Yep.
Kevin Love is going to be in a smaller role.
Even LeBron.
He's going to be dropping 26 points. LeBron, I don't know, maybe slightly. Kyrie Irving's going to be in a smaller role. Waiters is definitely going to be in a smaller role. And then guys like Mike Miller and Sean Marion, they're not going to be dropping 11, 12 points a game in terms of getting the shots to even do so. So a lot of guys on this team are going to have to take a smaller role and take a different role, because a lot of people who were shot creators, like Waiters and like Irving, are going to have to operate a lot more off-ball now, because you added LeBron.
Yeah.
That kind of changes the way you play. So that is going to be one thing to keep note on, is especially with a new coach, how are the rotations getting manned, and how are the shots being?
Yep.
And you came up with something pretty interesting yourself. Did you come up with rest differential? Did you do that?
Kind
you brought
of.
It here.
I mean, other people have various strength of schedule type things, but what I was kind of most interested in was kind of the either deficit or surplus that a team might have in terms of their rest over the course of the season. So I basically just looked at 4 games in 5 nights, 3 games in 4 nights, any road back-to-backs, and compared teams with their opponents for this next season, and came up with what I call kind of rest differential. And it's kind of a very easy way to look at it. It's probably not the best way to look at it, but it's a way to kind of get a sense of, are they kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of having less rest than their opponents overall, or maybe are they kind of ahead of things and able to play a little more consistently at their best because they've had enough rest. And the Cavs have a pretty bad negative one of negative 21. So that their opponents are going to be a lot more rested than they are over the course of the season. So the depth that the Cavs have and that they're trying to build is going to be really important, I think, over the course of this season.
Right, yeah. Cleveland trading staff.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to have your work cut out for you.
I'm sure they already have that in mind, I hope.
They know. Yeah, especially with this team, and especially considering they're going to be going to the playoffs for next year. It'll be interesting to see how a tiring season mixed with probably an extended playoff run. It'll be interesting to keep tabs on their gas. Okay, so there's a lot of other stuff that when you do these kinds of things that we wanted to talk into but didn't quite fit in. So I wrote a couple questions. Josh wrote a couple questions. We're going to think it out. We're calling this 5 questions.
Yep.
So my question to Josh, and maybe I'll answer it too, is what is this team doing at the center spot?
Well, they're probably going to start either Andy Varejao or Tristan Thompson.
Which one do you bet on?
Personally, I'd probably start Varejao myself.
That's not my question. That's not what I'm asking you.
Did you ask who
are they going to do? What are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're going to start Andy or Tristan at the 5. You're going to see some minutes of lineups where Kevin Love is playing the nominal 5 position. Brendan Hayward is supposedly healthy and doing decently in training camp and preseason, so he'll probably get a few minutes. Other than that, it's an area where there's some reason to have a little bit of concern because if there's any injuries, that they're a little light when it comes to the center position. I mean, they signed Alex Kirk, but he's a rookie, and you've got.
To be fair, he did play 4 years at New Mexico.
I'm not knocking Kirk. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of depth at the center necessarily without shifting either weak. Tristan or Love down there more consistently. So that's something that they're probably going to be keeping an eye on this year. And once again, hopefully that rest differential, they're taking good care of Andy and Tristan and Brendan and saving those guys from any significant injury risk.
Interesting. So do you think they're going to try to acquire maybe a rim protector sort of center kind of guy? I
would think that.
And if so, who?
I would think that's probably fairly high on their list of things to try and accomplish, at least in terms of personnel. Like we said, they do a decent job of defending the rim and preventing shots at the rim anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a major concern. That said, you add a rim protector or a defensive anchor, and they'll be even better. So I think they'll be looking for one. The question is, what kind of rim protector might they be able to get? Hibbert, if the Pacers get off to a really, really bad start, I wouldn't be surprised if Hibbert was on the market, but then does Hibbert actually make sense?
Yeah, does Hibbert fit in that offense? I don't think so.
Yeah. If things go bad for Milwaukee, maybe you might be able to get Sanders or Henson. You got guys like Kosta Koufis off the bench with Memphis, Mozgov with Denver. So there's guys out there that are possible to get. The question, and I'll pose this to you, Will, is what would they have to give up to do so? And does that even make sense to do that then?
Right. So I think a lot of that would depend on what actual player they're looking for. So what it takes to get Timothy Mozgov is a lot different than what it takes to get Roy Hibbert.
Yes.
Very true. I think that, and a lot of it, would depend if the team, let's say defensively on the wing, is having problems with Waiters. Waiters might come up on the market.
Yeah,
that could be a very realistic trade target, especially with the new role coming in. him having to make the adjustment from going from an on-ball guy to mostly an off-ball guy. You never really know how players are going to exactly do in a role shift. So Waiters might be on the market. Tristan Thompson might have to wind up being put on the market. I don't think that the Cavs wind up trading Varejao, just because, and I know this is kind of, this is kind of speculative. Well, I mean, this all really is, but this particular. But I don't think that they wind up trading Varejao, just because of the relationship that Varejao has with LeBron.
Yep.
Like, you just got LeBron. Why are you gonna trade his best buddy? That'd be kind of a, dick move.
Precisely.
Especially with the relationship that the Cavs have with LeBron as an organization.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to, if I'm running that team, I don't want to risk that. So, they do have a few players who could wind up on the market.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we wind up seeing, like you mentioned, the potential trade of any of those guys for Hibbert or Mozgov, Kufis in Memphis. Those are the real tried and true rim protectors who are probably going to be made available. So, yeah, I think that they have a few assets. They can find a way to piece something together and make it work.
Speaking of Dion Waiters' trade value, and how that might be kind of related to his role for this upcoming season, how do you think Dion's going to react to becoming more of an off-ball, tertiary guy in the offense instead of the secondary shot creator he has been?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I could see this going one of two ways. Ideally, because you can tell that Dion Waiters has a lot of respect for LeBron, right?
Yep.
He comes up on, I think it's on Twitter or interviews or somewhere, saying, yeah, LeBron's the best in the world and all that kind of stuff. And LeBron really has taken, as you can tell from the letter that came out, LeBron, I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron's taken Dion in as kind of a pet project.
Yeah.
But so that might create some sort of a relationship, and you can learn a lot. I mean, if you're not learning from LeBron James, you've got problems.
Yeah.
So that relationship, especially in a better offensive system, might get rid of some of the shot selection issues on offense. Would be a good thing. And then when you put him in a smaller role in terms of at least on the court, especially in like driving kick situations or as a spot up guy or off of a screen, ideally in that sort of role, if that's what you're doing, usually the right choice is to shoot.
Yeah.
Dion Waiters likes to shoot.
This is true.
Whereas if you're operating more as a ball handler, usually the right choice is to move the ball and pass.
Yep.
Not exactly Dion Waiters' strong suit. So I think that moving Dion Waiters from a larger, more ball-dominant role to an off-ball role is going to help his game a lot. And it really fits his game much, much better.
I agree.
The question is, how's he going to take it personally?
Yeah.
And I don't know Dion Waiters. I've never met the guy. He could be like the coolest dude on the planet. I don't know. But that could wind up potentially being a problem. It's something to keep tabs on. If there's any dissatisfaction with that. But I think ultimately it'd be for the best. Yeah. Hopefully he does too.
I think it'll wind up that way. That said, if there's any sort of problem with that, or just in general the fact that his efficiency is probably going to spike in that type of role, he's going to be probably their best trade asset that they'd actually be somewhat willing to get rid of. So if they do try to get a rim protector or a defensive anchor type guy, Waiters is probably going to be the guy that they have to send out if it's a fairly deep, big name guy.
Definitely. Speaking of big, does this team have the depth to be able to withstand injuries to guys like Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, Anderson Varejao. You alluded to the fact that all these guys have injury histories. They do.
Yep.
Anderson Varejao, they'll be lucky to get 65 games out of him. So, if one of those guys goes down, are the Cavs going to be okay?
They'll be okay simply because their offense is going to be top-notch. The defense is going to be somewhat problematic if any of those guys go down.
Yeah.
But they do have guys who can at least move into the center position somewhat in Tristan and Love to a degree, that they can cover for stretches of games. If it's significant time missed, it's going to be problematic. And therein lies the rub with the previous questions. Does it make sense to potentially try and get a Kufis, a Mozgov, a Hinson type guy to kind of buffer that problem?
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, there's a lot to definitely be taking in about this team, and there is a lot of there's really a lot to really just to keep tabs on. If everything goes according to plan, this team's going to be really, really good. The question, of course, is everything going to go according to plan? So, right quick, I think we should just make a few quick predictions.
Yep.
Using what I call 20, 50, 80. Do you mind explaining that?
All right, so 20, 50, 80 is something Will came up with where it relates to the percentage chance that these particular predictions will happen. So 20%, 50%, 80%.
And the reason that we're doing this is so that we can make crazy-ish, sort of off-the-wall predictions that don't come back to bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. So my 20% prediction is that the Cavs, perhaps due to injury, get off to a rough start, and David Blatt's seat starts to feel the heat.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Just because, any 15-game stretch, just this pure size of it means that you can go 8-7, 9-6, 10-5. Well, 10-5 would actually be good, but, there's a chance that they get off to a rough start, especially with so many new teammates, a new coach, a drastically different system. Yeah. It looked good in what we saw in the Maccabi game, but that's one game.
Yeah.
You know?
The biggest thing when it comes to coaches and being on the hot seat is coaches are entirely evaluated according to expectations. And this team's expectations are astronomical.
Exactly. Want to keep going?
Yeah. So my 50% prediction is that it's 50% likely that LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie all make an all-NBA team.
I don't agree on this one. But you can give your rationale, and then we'll get back.
LeBron James is a given.
Yes.
Kevin Love, I feel, is going to be a given.
Yes.
And I think Kyrie is really going to have an uptick in his efficiency, and the team's going to be winning. And winning is very important to the voters who vote on this sort of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if this team was leading the Eastern Conference in record, and therefore they feel they might need to. And Kyrie's putting up pretty good numbers. I wouldn't be surprised to see them all be on one of the NBA all NBA teams.
I get where you're coming from. My big thing is, and we saw it in Miami, and I think we're going to see it even more here, just because this team, especially compared to the early Miami teams, way deeper in terms of scoring and being able to put the ball in the hole. So this is a team, especially with Dion, now you have to worry about as a guy who's going to get some points, and a guy like Tristan Thompson who's responsible, or even Varejao who's going to get you 8 to 10. I don't really see the ball there being enough shots to go around to put Kyrie Irving into the statistical sort of thresholds that you usually see in like a all-NBA team. Plus, the guard positions are stacked.
This is true.
I don't know how he's going to be able. I don't know if he's going to be able to get in over Curry, Westbrook, Derrick Rose is back, Kobe's back, and then to make a third team, a guy like Goran Dragic. You have to go. You have to do better than
Lowry.
Lowry. Wade could have a good year.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys.
So many guys.
And that, is why I put it at 50-50.
50. Okay. Give him your 80.
And then my 80% prediction is that the Cavs are going to reach the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
The only reason it's not like 100% prediction that they're going to be at the Eastern Conference Finals is that injury risk.
And also because it's called 20-50-80.
Yeah, exactly.
Also because it's...
Yeah, so I feel very strongly that at the very least they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Depending on who they meet up, I wouldn't be surprised to see them get into the finals, but I also think there are some teams in the East that could make it tough on them and might be able to get into the finals past the Cavs. So
exactly.
I couldn't give it a full 100%.
I got you.
What about yours?
Mine, okay. So my 20% likely prediction is that the Cavs get Roy Hibbert. And that could wind up being a trade that involves the Haywood contract with mixed with Waiters and probably Tristan Thompson. Would probably be how a trade like that works. That's a tough one, and I personally wouldn't do it if I was Cleveland. But you do have to keep in mind that a lot of these GMs are like, oh, big name, Roy Hibbert, So I wouldn't be surprised if they wound up with Roy Hibbert by the end of the year to try to address some of the rim protection supposed problems. I think that there's a 50% chance this team makes the finals.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this is a really deep team. The Bulls, we still don't really know how if Derrick Rose is going to really be able to return to form. FIBA looked bad. So I think this team has at least a 50% shot at it. And then the 80% likely thing is LeBron gets another MVP.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. There's also no voter fatigue.
Right, they just gave Durant one. No one's mad at LeBron now. Everyone loves him. Just to be fair, they should have loved him all along.
And barring...
there wasn't really any reason for there to be any sort of negative media narrative against LeBron. I mean, I get the decision, but I mean,
well, it's
millions of dollars for charity. Anyway, I'm off topic.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though because in light of the NFL recently, for instance, some bad stuff's come to light. The worst thing that we can really say about LeBron is that he kind of did a douchey thing by not telling the Cavs before he announced it on TV. But that
and that's all you can really put on him. Dude, the decision raised like millions for charity. Didn't it raise a couple million for the Boys and Girls Clubs?
It raised millions of
we are
dollars
probably
for Boys
killing
and Girls
all the
Clubs.
Cleveland fans watching this right now. Guys, I am sorry.
So the worst thing that LeBron really did that we know about at least is raise a bunch of money for charity.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
it's kind of funny the vitriol that he gets, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him hoisting another MVP trophy after this year.
Yeah. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it all boils down to: is this team going to be good? And if so, how good are they going to be?
For me, it's a big duh. They're going to be really good. It'll depend on health primarily, but I think the Eastern Conference Finals is kind of their floor.
Yep, and
assuming
that kind of implies
health.
What the ceiling is.
Yeah.
So my answer to that question is, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Are you out of your mind? Of course they're going to be really damn good. This is a team that there's a lot of newness. And that's what scares me even more than injury.
Yeah.
And we saw it with the Heat team just year one with a bunch of guys coming in. And keep in mind now, like, Eric Spoelstra has been coaching that team for a few years in Miami before the Big Three came in. And with the Cavs, everybody is getting a new system.
Yeah.
Brand new. So there is a huge element of newness here. A lot is going to have to mesh together. And we don't usually see that year one. But having said all that, I think they could win the championship on talent and fit alone.
They'll definitely be in contention, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're. I won't necessarily call them the front runner, but they're at least 1A or 1B.
Yeah. And right. To your point about the Heat in year one of the big three, they were up 2-1 in the finals.
Yeah, they could have done it.
So, I mean, assuming you have the right talent and a damn good coach, which the Heat did with Spoelstra, and David Blatt is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't worry too much for the Cavs. But it's always going to be, reality versus expectations, and the expectations are sky high. And I have the feeling, and I think you do too, the reality is going to be sky high too.
Yeah. Cleveland, the drought might be over.
Yes.
I really hope
no more number one overall picks.
Yeah, that's going to be the bummer. Anyway, this concludes our team preview of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Feel free to click that subscribe button down below. If you want to see more team previews, we will be releasing them pretty frequently up until mid-November.
Yarp.
And hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike button if you didn't like it. Leave a comment telling us what you thought. And we'll see you soon. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Take care.